everyone, and today we are finally moving on to the last episode of the Rebel Eaters Club. I'm going to do my best to keep everything kind of flowing. I feel a little out of practice now that I've had like a week off, and I'm still slightly recovering. I'm at like 90%, but I still have some stuff going on with my sinuses and a slight cough. So I'll do my best to cut all of that out should it come up, but if I miss something, I just want you guys to know why. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Hey Rebel Eaters, Virgie here. Making this show over the past few months has been such a thrill, and the best part has been hearing from you. Today, I'm going to play some of the voicemails you've sent this season. Thank you for writing and calling. We've read or listened to every one of your messages, and you are all so inspiring. A few of you had some questions for me, and I want to start with this one from an anonymous Rebel Eater. I'll play part of the voicemail and then give you my very best answer. Here we go.
Hi, I am new to listening to your podcast and I'm enjoying it so far. But my question or questions that I'm running into are, how do you go against the diet culture and still remain healthy? Because while it sounds awesome to eat whatever you want, we still know that it's not healthy to have a lot of fat and heart disease and all that. And the other question I have is, how do you get to the point of loving yourself at any size? That sounds wonderful, but how do you get there? Thanks so much. Bye.
Hello, Anonymous. Thank you for this question. First, I want to point you to three very smart people who have dedicated their lives to answering the first part of this question. Number one is Dr. Lindo Bacon, who wrote Health at Every Size. Number two, Carolyn Dooner, who wrote The Fuck It Diet. And number three, Christy Harrison, who wrote Anti-Diet. Also, look for resources on intuitive eating. Now, here's my perspective as a person who's not a nutritionist, but has spent almost a decade researching diet culture. I want to push you to consider that the framing of fear around having a lot of fat actually comes from a mentality of restriction. If fat or sugar or whatever weren't off limits, most people actually wouldn't crave it constantly. I want to stress that dieting and
I completely disagree with that. Sugar has addictive qualities to it, and personally, I find that the more sugar I eat, the more sugar I crave. If anything, when I make a point to cut out sugar for a little while, yeah, the cravings spike up initially, but if you ride them out, you crave it far less, especially if you're eating fruits or something with natural sugar instead of the high processed sugar. You just crave sugar less. Fruit becomes enough. I go through ebbs and flows in that. Sometimes I'm really good about just having kind of fruit as my sweet thing, and then other times I'm eating sugary shit constantly. So it's not a linear path by any means, but I completely disagree that this whole mentality of you crave foods because you can't have them is that I'm not saying that can't play a role, but one, that's not a role for everybody, and two, that's not the whole picture.
diet culture are not correlated with better physical or mental health outcomes. It's the opposite. Dieting is correlated with a higher likelihood of depression, stress.
That's dieting, though, not lifestyle changes. I think that unfortunately, I think they conflate the two, but dieting is like the fad diets that you can't sustain. If you're taking on a diet just because you heard that it's supposed to help you lose weight fast, and it's not something that you can maintain for the rest of your life, then yeah, it's not necessarily going to have a good outcome because you are eating in a way that is unsustainable and that requires a lot of sacrifice on your part, which is going to diminish any sense of reward that you get from it. As to where if it's small to moderate lifestyle changes over the course of a long period of time, you don't even notice them.
Stress and anxiety, as well as weight cycling and binging. Essentially, diet culture trains us not to trust our body's natural signals around hunger, fullness, and desire. Those signals give us important information, including when we are craving a delicious warm cookie because we've been denied that experience for too long, or when we need water, or when we need some fiber from vegetables because our butts are sad. Your body's natural signals only come back when we stop trying to control every single thing we eat.
I completely disagree. I have found that when I am, in a way, restricting what I eat, which is not really restricting, I just not eating fast food so much, cutting down on the sugary foods I get. One, I don't get hungry as often, especially if I'm keeping up on protein and fat content. And the sugar, as I said before, the sugar cravings go down. I don't think, and the more veggies I eat, the more veggies I crave. If I go for a long time without eating vegetables and I'm just eating like shit, then one, the vegetables don't necessarily taste as good as they would normally because I've been eating this highly palatable food. And it's just not, you don't go to it as often as you would if it were like a regular part of your diet.
It's certainly a bad idea to eat stuff you're deathly allergic to, or food that makes you feel pain or physical discomfort. And if you have a condition that is triggered by certain foods, don't eat those foods. Bottom line, your body is not a terrifying, monstrous thing that has to be monitored at all times. It has wisdom. There are all sorts of ways to define health, and everyone has the right to pursue their own version of it in a way that allows them dignity. If I could wave a magic wand and create a hypothetical world where diet culture never existed and everyone ate what they wanted, I would bet that the inhabitants of that world would 100% be better off mentally and physically than the people who exist in the diet culture steeped world we live in now. As for your question about how to love yourself at any size, this process looks different for different people. When I talk about self-love, I'm not talking about an experience of being blissed out about your body every single day. I'm talking about the decision to stop waging war against your body in the form of restriction and hunger. This process might start with surrender and acceptance. Saying to yourself every morning, I accept this body as it is, today, tomorrow, forever. I think it could also start with changing how we think about fat people. We're taught that the worst thing that could happen to us is that we get fat, when in fact the worst thing that could happen to us is that we live a life where we constantly feel emotionally unstable because we're suppressing the basic human instinct to eat. I talk about some of this stuff in my new book. It's for teens, but it's also great for anyone who's new to the subject. It's called The Self-Love Revolution, Radical Body Positivity for Girls of Color. It comes out May 1st, and you can pre-order it now online. Thanks for your question, Anonymous. Here's another.
Hi, Virgie. My name is Dee, and I'm from Billings, Montana, and I'm a 60-year-old fat white chick, and I've been fat all my life. And the conversation that I would like to change about food involves a really dear friend of mine. She's always been trim, and she's just completely put together. We'll always go for a really nice meal, and I always really look forward to it. So the first thing that happens is when the waitress comes and puts the food down, she'll say, this is so much food, I'll never be able to eat it. And I look at my plate and I think, oh, this is a portion of meat, a portion of potatoes. It doesn't look like this huge meal to me. But we'll have a nice conversation, and in the middle of the meal, she will always say, see, I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to have my meal boxed up, and I'm going to take it home, and I'm going to have it for lunch and dinner tomorrow. And she says it as if she's giving me a lesson or telling me a trick, and I always say, I'm going to do that too. The thing is, truly, now that I think about it, I think I do that because I want to say to her, see, I know the trick too. I know the skinny girl trick. Well, keep doing what you're doing. I love listening. Thanks.
D. Okay, so first of all, what your friend is doing has a name. It's called fat shaming.
Oh my god, no, I knew she was going through... I'm not saying... I don't know, it did kind of seem, at least in the way that Dee presented it, it seemed like the friend was maybe making a pointed hint, but that could also be colored by her perception of the whole thing, and maybe this is just something her friend does. It's not a skinny trick so much as it is just learning to take smaller portions. If it doesn't look like that much to you and it's a lot for her, and especially if she's of normal, like average healthy BMI weight, chances are your portions are too big. This is something like, it pays to look at what someone who's thinner than you, what their portions look like. It's not always a great rule of thumb, but it's a way to calibrate what you view as a reasonable portion. I look at my portions versus my sister, who is at a healthy BMI. I am very much at the high end of overweight right now. And it's something that I use to help calibrate my portion sizes. Because especially when I'm hungry, I take bigger portions than I really need. And then because it's already on my plate, I eat it. I'm not very good at leaving food on my plate because then I feel like I'm wasting it. So there is that level of it too. I don't think your friend was like fat shaming you per se. I think maybe she was trying to make a pointed hint and thinking that she was helping you. Whether that was actually helpful or not, that's up to you. And if you are just like, oh, I'm eating, there's a couple of different ways to handle it really. If you're kind of like the 1 meal a day sort of person, then maybe having massive portions, something that's enough for her 3 meals. Well, if you're only having 1 meal a day, then that 1 meal is worth 3 meals and it's fine for you. If she's one to separate her food out, then great. It's kind of a question of, do you plan on like eating more. How much have you eaten up to this point? Did you skip lunch in order to have this meal? There's a couple of different variations to go along with it. I have bigger dinners and really small lunches because that's how I prefer. I don't really like eating a whole lot, especially in the middle of a workday, because it leaves me feeling sluggish. So I literally pack some trail mix, and I mean like a couple of handfuls, and that's it, and a protein bar. And that's my lunch, along with some water. Because if I have even oftentimes having leftovers from dinner the night before, it's too heavy for me, given how active my job is and how much I'm like monitoring and how stress levels can be on certain days. And it's just a matter of monitoring, one, your portion size, and two, what else do you really need that full portion? It's not fat shaming. It's there. I think, especially in the US, our perception of what is fat has become greatly skewed, and what a reasonable portion size is has become greatly skewed. And I think it's worth taking an honest look at yourself for it.
Fat shaming is not okay. It's hurtful. Your friend has created a situation where you don't feel safe to finish your meal. It is not all on you. It's her job to stop projecting her feelings onto you. Second of all, we have no idea what she's doing or going through, but the fact that she can't go a single meal without commenting on food makes me think she may have her own issues with food, like so many of us do. I personally would not be okay with a friend saying things like that to me, so I want to validate that you are allowed to have feelings about what she's doing, and you are also allowed to finish your damn dinner. So I want to go through 3 tools you might use moving forward. First, reframing. It sounds like your friend feels a lot of pressure to perform a particular kind of behavior that's expected of women. That includes not eating a lot and talking about it all the time too. Remember how Caleb talked about performance studies? Your friend is performing this skinny girl trick. And that kind of performance stifles intimacy. To me, it's a sign of...
It's not necessarily performative. That may just be how she eats. When you learn to eat less, the big portions that are given to you at restaurants, apologize, that's my dog. New pet pictures are coming probably next month, and I'll start putting them at the beginning and end of my videos again. But anyway, when you start learning to eat normal portion sizes, and you get like these big portions from the restaurants, it's like, oh wow, this actually is a lot. I don't think it's unreasonable to comment on that, especially when you have like the new perspective of it. And I think it's part of it is just them. I think this is a pretty good example of them potentially looking for nefarious intentions, where for most people it would probably be fairly reasonable.
Of pain. It's a sign that your friend is suffering. That doesn't mean she's not responsible for her behavior, but thinking about it that way may change how you see her behavior. Maybe it's not that she's got it all together and you don't. Maybe it's just a performance. Okay, tool number 2, externally facing boundaries. These are boundaries you set with others. Like you could ask her to stop commenting on food when you're at dinner. You could just say something like, I care about our friendship. I know you do too. When you say these things, I feel judged. Can we try doing a dinner where you don't say these things? Tool number 3 is internally facing boundaries. These are boundaries you hold within yourself for yourself. Like before you go out to dinner, you might decide that one of your boundaries is that you are going to finish your dinner at the table, if that's what you want to do. Also, you can make a plan before you hang out again about how you're going to take care of yourself after dinner if she says anything like that again. Good luck, Dee. Remember, you deserve to have fun at a fancy dinner.
My name is Claire. I am a 37-year-old mother of 3, and I work full-time as an executive director at a nonprofit in Portland. I'm also recovering from an eating disorder. I entered treatment for the first time last fall, and it was one of the hardest experiences of my life. My wonderful therapist convinced me that A, I was sick, B, I needed help, and C, I needed help sooner rather than later. Because I don't look like I'm starving to death, all of my restriction was pretty much unnoticed for my entire life. People were generally shocked to hear that I had an eating disorder. On paper, I'm not going to lie, I look like I have it all together. I have a leadership position. I have received awards and fellowships. I've done the things. It's really difficult to communicate the magnitude of this mental illness and disease with other people. I'm not going to lie, I've been in a very bad place as of late. Between pressures from kids, work, and marriage, it's been very hard. And some days the eating disorder is just so loud, I want to bang my head against the wall. But listening to the podcast has been amazing. It's like a door has been opened to a room full of people who feel exactly the same way I do. I feel like for the first time recovery is possible. Last night I had ice cream for the first time, and I really focused on eating it with joy. It is actually a huge breakthrough for me, and you all helped me with that. Please keep doing what you're doing on the podcast. It really matters.
Hi, Claire. It brought the biggest smile to my face imagining you eating that ice cream with joy. That is healing. I'm really, really grateful to hear you have an amazing therapist. I might recommend asking your therapist to listen to episode 3 with Deb Burgard and talk out what a health at every size approach to ED treatment can look like. I believe fully in a future of recovery for you, Claire. I'm rooting for you.
I'll be honest, I don't really have much to comment on that. Eating disorders, like ones that she's clearly gone to a doctor, this has been diagnosed, we don't even see anything regarding her life. I'm not going to comment on that one. I'm going to just let that one go because I don't really know what I would say about that.
And I'm rooting for all of you, Rebel Eaters. I've loved hearing from you this season. I hope you'll keep calling us. I'm still listening. So if you haven't called yet and you'd like to, you're not too late. Ask me questions. Tell me about your quarantine food life or whatever else you want to share. I'm going to share a secret with you. We're really hoping to make a second season of Rebel Eaters Club, and we'd love to know what you want to hear. Leave a voicemail at 862-231-5386. That's 862-231-5386. You can write us too, rebeleatersclub@gmail.com.
All right, so that's pretty much the end. I'll be honest, I think that those 3 voicemails are about all they got. Because Virgie strikes me as someone that if she'd gotten a lot more people telling her how much her work helps them, she would continue to put that shit out just because it boosts up her image, and I think she would feel like it would legitimize all of her points. So I get the feeling that that's probably the extent of all the feedback that they've gotten about the Rebel Eaters Club. There may be more after season 1. This is the official end of season 1. This is it. After this, there was a promo for like a watch live event, a watch party event, so there's no point in going over that, and then it goes straight into a trailer for season 2. So this was it. This was season 1. I personally don't want to go into season 2. I'm pretty tired of Virgie at this point, and I'm really enjoying the A Year in the TikToks that we've been doing. So this is it. This is the end of Virgie summer. It took until October. I was really hoping to be done last week, but that sometimes flus happen. So that's about all I have. This is a fairly short video. I don't really have anything more to say, so I'm going to leave it here. Thank you for watching, and what's going to happen going forward with this channel is right now I'm only going to be doing 1 video a week, and that's going to be A Year in the TikToks. We're still going to have A Year in the TikTok video this week, and then starting next week it's going to be 1 video a week, but I'm going to aim to make those videos very long. We're talking at least an hour, possibly an hour and a half, even 2 hours if I can manage it. That being said, there are some TikToks where they're either fairly new or they went through and took it I want to say it was Fat Girl Flow that went through and scrubbed their content. And so there just isn't a whole lot to react to. In those cases, if it's under 45 minutes, I'll make 2 videos that week. So that's kind of the general idea going forward. Thank you so much for watching. That's all I really have to say, and I will see you next time.